What did you do this during our unintended week off?
I took a nap every single day after school.
Oh yeah.
How about you? What'd you do?
Well, my sister came to visit, and so that's the reason why I ended up not being able to squeeze in a recording. So, yep, blame it all on me, everyone. It is my fault that we did not have an episode last week. I thought I was going to be able to squeeze one in, but just was unable to because we ended up doing a bunch of stuff. But other than that, let's see, I caught a cold.
Oh, nice.
So I apologize if I do start coughing. Hopefully I'm not dead. But
if you're coughing, you're still alive.
Exactly.
If you're in a coffin, you're dead.
And that made me cough just now because I started laughing.
Well, you better get used to it.
Yeah, I think so. You guys are going to hear a lot of coughing to this episode, I'm afraid.
Because I'm going to be fucking hilarious.
Erik is just going to torture me. This is what was I saying? Oh yeah. So yeah, I caught the cold, but I guess the most eventful thing that happened in the past week was actually this morning, where I was those teen movies that were really popular, like not even teen movies, the college, like the college frat boy like comedies, like the romance comedies, where you had like a guy who was sort of like the typical, frat boy male who
like Van, what's that movie called?
Van Wilder. That is so
Van
funny.
Wilder.
You mentioned that is the movie that I ended up watching this morning.
Was it
so funny you mentioned that? I don't know. I mean, I don't really have an opinion on movies like that. So I mean, well, here's the thing. I enjoy watching those types of movies, but would I call them masterpieces? No,
you would be the first.
Yeah, exactly. It got me thinking, like in all those movies, there's always that one part where they're sad for like 30 seconds. And so like they're sitting on top of a building contemplating how they're going to get this girl that that they're trying to manipulate or steal away from somebody else who's equally as worse or worse than them. I was just thinking what they do. It always happens this way. 30 seconds of sadness. Then the next scene, they're all happy and back to their horrible ways. Right. I was thinking, what if somebody made a movie where in those 30 seconds, he dies? I don't know. That thought just crossed my mind.
Van Wilder dies?
Well, not just Van Wilder. I'm just talking about the stereotypical character that's in these movies.
Oh, yeah. I kind of think that we need more movies where people just die, like right in the middle.
And then like people move on like in real life. There's no like,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, there's going to be sadness, but the sadness needs to, okay. If you're going to get sad because you can't get the girl for 30 seconds, you're only allowed 30 seconds for sadness because of death.
Yeah, sounds good. That's all I usually need.
in the movie.
Usually I'm like, oh man, that sucks. I'm really going to miss that person. But, I feel really happy that I knew him and we had a lot of good times together. Oh, right. I got a lot of shit to do.
Exactly. What made you think of Van Wilder when that's so wild?
I don't know. I just thought you were talking about frat boy movies, and that was the only one I could think of that was legit, like a frat boy in the title role.
Right. Yeah.
Usually it's like American Pie or had some other name than just the guy's name.
That's true. That's true.
I guess Animal House, that was the guy's name, right? John Belushi's character. They just called him Animal House.
Well, now that I think of it, American Pie, that was also the name of the character, right?
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, well, that brings us to greetings, citizens of Earth. Welcome to the Accelerativ Thrust podcast. I am Dan.
And I'm Erik still.
And we've been gone for way too long, as you can tell. That intro, I think that's the longest intro we've done since we started doing real intros. But today we are going to do something a little unusual. Rather, we're going to be kind of talking about or reviewing something a little unusual. In addition to the 2 album picks, we're also going to be talking about or reviewing a digital piece of art that is now on CORY Peak's YouTube channel, which is simply CORY P, called 36. We'll talk a little bit more about that when we come to it. And then we've also got, as I mentioned, a couple of album reviews. One of them was actually a recommendation from our good friend, Kevin Hansen, who used to play, I don't know, do you know where he lives now, Erik?
He moved not that long ago. Yeah, I don't remember.
He used to play in the band Accelerativ, who we've had Brian Barr on this show before, but he also has played in Shores of the Tundra, and he currently does a industrial project, I believe. What is it again?
There's a few different things that Kevin does. Dirt Chamber, Dead City Soundscape, which is sort of an industrial dub thing. I think he releases things under the name Olik Neshna.
Oh, yes. Okay. That's his name on Instagram.
Right. So I think Kevin does a lot of stuff. So all of that is available on his, I mean, at least you can look into it on his Instagram, which is Olik Neshna, which is hard to say. I would say if you search Kevin Tundra, you're going to find him. So.
You're going to find him. Exactly. Yeah. Thank you very much for that recommendation, Kevin. That is, I guess I'll just say it now. KK's Priest, Sermon of the Sinners. Very interesting project that they got going on there. Just a reminder, we are on Transistor, Content Made Right, Spotify, Google, Amazon, and YouTube. We also have official pages on Facebook and Instagram, and you can message us or comment. If you're in a band, would like to be reviewed by us or request a review, doesn't have to be local. We review, as you know, plenty of things, but we do like to focus on local music as well. So yeah, just hit us up or if you just want to say hi, or if you know of any shows coming up, any rad shows in the local area. And by local, I mean the Iowa, Illinois area. Also, don't forget to check out our weekly Spotify playlist. So that brings us to some current events and music news. And I got to be honest with you guys. I'm only going to talk about a couple because this is going to be actually a quick segment this week because, it's been 2 weeks now and I haven't really updated anything, but a couple things that I thought were interesting that I wanted to talk about. The first thing, so a mystery group of YouTubers is trying to buy a Tennessee town, a rural Tennessee. Am I even saying that right? Rural.
Oh, I hate that fucking word. Rural.
I hate it too.
Rural.
And this is just for, rural. I can't even say it if I say it right. Country music. Okay. Let me start over. This is kind of verbatim from the article. Country music stars, Hollywood studios, and an unknown group of YouTubers are rushing to buy a small Tennessee town after its owners listed it for sale at the very, very reasonable price of $725,000.
Wow.
I guess for an entire town, that would be a reasonable price.
That's a heck of a deal.
Yeah, I mean, it's not often you come across the town for $725,000.
No, I had a chance to buy Muscatine for, I think, 1.2 mil.
Whoa, that dude, you got ripped off there.
I didn't do it. I didn't do it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I bet you could have talked him down.
Probably, but someone else owns it now, so whatever.
Yeah, that's true. I wonder if it's country music stars or pilots or retired couples or several large families with lots of children, as well as nonprofit groups, and they were interested in turning it into a veterans retreat.
Wow.
That's actually kind of an interesting idea, honestly.
Yeah.
That's actually kind of cool, I got to say. The idea of a mystery group of, like the headline says, a mystery group of YouTubers is trying to buy a tiny town in rural Tennessee.
So what were the YouTubers going to do with it?
Yeah, what were the YouTubers trying to do with it? That's what I want to know.
Yeah. What are the YouTubers doing to the soil?
Goddamn YouTubers. Come on, man. Yeah, okay. So I don't know. I just thought the wording of that headline made it sound hilarious. It does say here, Miss Schwartz, okay, real estate broker Krista Schwartz. So she is the real estate broker.
Mm-hmm.
She says it's just the dreamiest, quiet, gentle ride up through some of the prettiest land in Tennessee. You could stop at any moment and find something to take a picture of. It could be a soda fountain or a candy shop or homemade ice cream or an antique store or an event venue with music or a bed and breakfast. It can be so many different things and still preserve the history and peace. Eric,
yeah,
I think we should add 2 podcasters from Iowa to that list of people that are trying to buy.
Well,
this.
I did just look up the real estate agent's website, and their slogan is "May the Schwartz be with you."
Nuh-uh. Are you serious?
No.
Oh my God. I am so gullible. I thought you were being dead serious. That is, if it really was that, then yes, we would find a way to raise $725,000.
I am a hell of a liar. That's what
You are. You're very, very good. I do the same thing, except that for some reason I believe other people's lies.
I guess I do too. I wouldn't think anyone would actually lie to me. I lie, but it's only for like 5 seconds until you realize I'm lying, and then we have a good laugh about it. It's not like
Exactly.
I actually lie.
Yeah.
Let's buy that town.
Yeah. Any listeners out there that want to donate to Accelerativ Thrust to help get us started on buying this town?
Yeah.
Let us know. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, guys, let's get on it.
So, in other news, a principal named Sharon Burns from, I think it's Ontario, Canada. Yeah, Ontario. This article is stating she is kind of bringing back the satanic panic nostalgia. It's reared its head in St. Catharines, Ontario. Yes, I was right. High school principal was faced with petitions for her firing because she posted a photo of herself next to a truck covered in maiden decorations and another picture of an Eddie toy sitting on a dashboard above a piece of paper that says Eddie in big capital letters. And has a nice, they say a nice 666 with a heart drawn around it.
Oh, cute.
Yeah, it's beautiful. She says, well, actually, soon after the petition was launched, there was also an effort, a petition launched to keep her there. And their argument is that it's a public school, not a Christian school, and that Principal Burns spreads nothing but love and kindness. And at the end of the day, she's going to remain principal. She's not going to get fired. So
good.
Yeah, I love. Well,
I don't even understand if she straight up did worship the devil. Like, why would that matter?
Well, yeah, and on top of that, I remember there were a couple of teachers when I was in school. I remember Mr. Armstrong, who was my swimming teacher in gym. We were having a conversation about the dead Kennedys. Nice. And like, he was a big fan. And one of the things he said to me, because I used to always show up to swimming class without my trunks. So I would sit on the, you had to sit on the bleachers.
You mean you just wouldn't wear anything?
No. I would just not show up with what I was supposed to wear. Yeah. I was showing up.
I thought you just walked out to the pool from the locker room.
That's why he would sit me on the bleachers.
Right.
But anyway,
and those bleachers were cold.
Anyway, he would actually talk to me about music.
Ah,
He went to Lollapalooza in 95, I believe it was.
cool.
But he talked about the dead Kennedys. And the first thing he said about the dead Kennedys, I always enjoyed that song, I Kill Children.
Nice.
So he's like, I thought that was cool. And he was a really nice guy. But this guy is like, clearly is not, just because he likes the dead Kennedys doesn't mean that he like goes out and kills children,
Right. I mean, my art teacher was the actual devil. So
I think I know what art teacher you're talking about because I think we've said his name.
I think I bleeped it out.
Okay. Well, no, I don't think so because I think that was before editing existed on this podcast when I was editing.
Oh.
Yeah, so Iron Maiden. Yeah, bringing back the Satanic Panic.
Yeah. Well, good. Somebody needs to.
Somebody needs to do it. Those were good times, man.
Yeah. With all the stuff we have to actually be afraid of in this world, we need something that's like scary, but isn't real,
and legit.
Yeah. So I think it's good. We need some satanic panic back in our world.
Yeah. So that brings us to the reviews, Eric. I'm excited. I'm excited. Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of other things that we could talk about, but I figure they're kind of dated by now. Like, I'll just say what I wrote down and I won't talk about it. Ozzy says Satan saved him from COVID-19.
Again, see? Need the devil.
And then a Canadian woman woke up to a meteorite in her bedroom. So could you imagine that?
Was it just like standing over her bed?
Yeah. It had legs.
It's a home invasion.
It's like
meteorite.
Like this big meteorite.
For a long time, it would just look through the windows and then
oh, funny. Man.
These things I'm saying aren't funny. They're terrible.
Yeah.
Stalkers aren't funny, guys.
They
home
really
invasion isn't funny.
But I mean, a meteorite stalker would be kind of.
So, that's true. You're right. It is hilarious.
It's just the idea. I mean, I think the idea of it having arms and legs is even funnier.
Oh my God.
I
think that's considered a meteor. When it is armless and legless is when it's a meteorite.
Meteorite. There you go. So there's a difference, guys.
Yeah, it's the arms and legs.
It's meteorite, not meteor.
Oh. Which you can also find our podcast there. Meteor Made Right.
Meteor Made Right. Have you ever had a very meaty Made Right though?
Oh yeah, I used to be able to get double meat.
Yeah, with the cheese on top.
Yeah, cheese right.
Yeah,
a meaty cheese right.
You used to have to eat at least part of it with a spoon.
For sure.
Yeah. Crazy.
I haven't had one in a long time.
Yeah, neither have I. Last time I did have a Made Right, I remember them not being nearly as good as they used to be.
It was made mediocre.
It was made mediocre. Yeah, made wrong.
Could I have a cheese mediocre?
Yeah. We should open up a restaurant called Made Wrong.
Yeah, there you go. And the first one was in every single small town in Iowa.
Yeah, but see, we're gonna open it up in that small rural Tennessee town.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then every place in Tennessee will say, no, our town had the first Made Right.
Yeah.
And also is the meth capital of the state.
We should just make everything about that town into Muscatine. Like open up our own like smoke factory or whatever it is that GPC. Yeah.
Well, that's what they make at GPC.
They produce and package smoke, from what I understand.
SPC, Smoke Processing Corporation.
Oh, for a second, I thought you said STB, the Stone Temple Pilots.
Oh no, I said STD. Sexually transmitted disease. That's what they actually make at GPC.
That's what they do, man. Oh, geez.
I mean, something happened to me.
Yeah.
I worked there for just a little while and totally got gonorrhea.
Yeah, there's something in the air there for sure.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get to the reviews at some point, aren't we?
I don't know. Yeah. Sure. Why not?
So the pick that I've got this week is Kevin's suggestion that I mentioned, KK's Priest, Sermon of the Sinners. This is KK Downing's. I don't know if this is supposed to be like I don't know if these songs were intended to be Judas Priest songs, maybe, or if this is just maybe there's some sort of internal feud going on with Judas Priest. And I do know that KK Downing is no longer a member of Judas Priest. I don't know what the circumstances surrounding that is. So maybe this is kind of a middle finger to Judas Priest. Maybe not. I don't know. In any case, he recruited Tim Ripper Owens to do the vocals on this project. And yeah, I got to say, I thoroughly enjoyed this album. In my opinion, if you're a fan of Judas Priest, I think that you'll like this album. It's definitely more updated, maybe a little more. I shouldn't even say updated, because honestly, Judas Priest, I think their last album they put out was just only like 2 years ago. And so, I mean, they're still putting out music and they've gone through a lot of changes. I would say that this album at times reminds me a lot of the, say, like Screaming for Vengeance era, or maybe even the British Steel era, or even like the Painkiller era of Priest. And then also with the addition of Tim Ripper Owens, I hear a lot of the Jugulator album kind of going on here. But I think that this is also its own thing. I don't think this is like a rehash of like old Judas Priest or anything like that. Again, I don't know if these were intended to be Priest songs or what. But I mean, the album starts off kind of ridiculous, which, you know, I mean, let's face it, a lot of metal in this style kind of does. A deep demonic voice reciting the sermons of the sinner, and then you hear like the sound of rain and thunder and the most ridiculous sort of almost like, it almost sounds like a Yngwie Malmsteen record or something like that. But then it goes into Hellfire Thunderbolt. And, you know, you're getting exactly what I think you would expect from a record called KK's Priest with Tim Ripper Owens doing the vocals. And that's not a bad thing. It does sound like an updated version of an old Priest record, I would say. I mean, spidery, noodly solos all over the place, epic metal riffs, operatic vocals. I mean, I will say, and I've always thought this, Tim Ripper Owens replaced Halford on 2 Priest records for a reason. And that is because he is by far the man. If there's anybody who that job is for, it would be Tim Ripper Owens. Obviously, I love Halford. Halford is Priest. But let's just say, if you're going to compare like the 2 albums that didn't have the original vocalist on Maiden, you know, on Maiden's output in the 90s, to the Priest's output that had Tim Ripper Owens, the 2 albums with the replacement vocalist from Judas Priest wins hands down, because Jugulator is a fantastic record for anybody who's never listened to it, or at least in my opinion it is. But that also being said, I kind of think that Tim Ripper Owens pays homage to Halford more on this album than he ever did fronting Priest. That's one of the things I like about the Jugulator album, is that I don't think that he tried to really be Halford in any way whatsoever. And I don't even think he really is here. This is totally, you can totally tell the difference between the 2, but I would say this is the closest I've heard to hitting the same notes as Halford. As a matter of fact, it can be argued, I think, I've heard a little bit of some of the other projects that Tim Ripper Owens has been involved with. It could be argued that he may even be able to hit higher notes than Halford. You know, that might be a kind of blasphemy to some people, but he's a hell of a vocalist. Yeah, this is epic metal to be damned. I think that you'll love the guitar playing if you love Priest. You'll love the vocals if you love Priest. You'll love the bass and the drums, the rhythm section. I mean, this is just high quality, epic speed metal, battle metal, power metal, whatever you want to call it. And I think it's as good as many of those Priest records. The song Metal Through and Through reminds me a lot of Maiden, the way that it is structured. But yes, if you like Priest, I think you're going to love this. What did you think, Eric?
It's weird. I wanted to say that this is sort of a modern take on super anthemic new wave of British heavy metal stuff, but it's not really a modern take at all. It's just like a modern recording, you know?
Yeah.
So
yes,
it sounds wonderful. All of the playing is really phenomenal. I mean, just as good as you would expect it to be. But yeah, it's super well done. There's elements, like Dan said, of speed metal, power metal, kind of just hard rock too in places. It really reminded me of like this 85 to 87 moment in time where a lot of power metal was kind of getting faster, like not thrash, but a lot faster and a little more exciting, I guess, or upbeat. And I think all that comes from Priest, and a lot of people ran with it. So like Halloween or Grim Reaper or Accept or Exciter, stuff like that Priest 100% influenced completely. It's kind of weird to say that this sounds like those bands because he's probably is responsible for that sound, you know? So it's kind of hard to say like, oh, this sounds like anything other than Judas Priest without it being kind of, I don't know, naming someone that they influenced, you know? But definitely a lot of Dio, Iron Maiden for sure, big time. I like Ripper's vocals. The fact that you said he sings higher than Halford, I think is accurate. And I think it's a little too high.
Yeah.
At times.
At times, for sure.
It's just like, I mean, I feel the same way about Halford as well, though. Like some things every once in a while, I'll be like, oh my God, I don't know if that's necessary.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you, but I don't think we need to hit quite that high of notes. But yeah, if you like that sort of like mid 80s speed metal, power metal, you're gonna like this a lot because it's exactly what it is. The other thing about Ripper's vocals, I think they're a little more gruff when he's not in those higher registers. And it sort of reminds me of Dee Snider in a small way, from Twisted Sister, whom I like a lot, who I think butt right up against this sort of moment in time. I think they were a little too poppy to actually be on the same level as some of these other bands. Sure. But they have some fast tracks, and I think that Dee Snider's vocals are really cool and way more influential than people give them credit for. Regardless, this isn't about Twisted Sister.
Right.
But yeah, I would say if you like classic new wave of British heavy metal, speed metal, power metal, I mean, it does get ridiculous, and that's great. It's a lot of fun. I mean, it's not quite Manowar level,
right,
but it's close at times. Like, this is really about riding your motorcycle, listening to heavy metal, wearing a battle vest, and it's right there. The only thing that I would say that I didn't care for very much was this constant sort of referencing of Judas Priest. I didn't quite get it, you know?
Yeah.
Like it's called KK's Priest. Sermons of the Sinner obviously is a take on the idea of a priest to Judas or whatever.
Right.
A lot of the songs are along those same lines. They talk about priest a lot. Like if this wouldn't have had any reference to Judas Priest at all, I think I would have liked it better. If it seemed like its own thing, like this dude's over priest, he's doing this new thing and it kicks ass. Like I think I would have personally responded to that a little bit better. I think it kind of detracted from what it is, that it was so much nodding this other thing from the past. And I'm sure he's proud of Judas Priest. He should be. But
Yeah.
at the same time, it's like, well, be proud of what you're making now because it's pretty good.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
All right.
So, yeah, my record choice today is a band, and I'm going to pronounce this wrong. I'm sure it looks like phonetically, I would say Mong Hang, Monghang, but I'm pretty sure you would actually say Mong Hong, but I don't know for sure. So I'm just going to say Mong Hang. This record came out in 2001. It's self-titled. It was very difficult to find information about this group. I am pretty sure they're Japanese. I think one of the people involved was involved in the Acid Mother's Temple as well. I'll start this by saying that I talk about this a lot, where all of a sudden I'll hear a record from out of nowhere, and I'll just be like, how in the hell have I not heard this before? Like, it's infuriating at times. And sometimes I blame myself. Sometimes I blame my friends. Sometimes I blame music media, or maybe all three of these things. But yeah, it was kind of like the first time I heard John Cale's Paris 1919, kind of the same reaction. Like, why on earth haven't I heard this? Like, it was so frustrating. But this is the same way. Mong Hang, totally insane music. Totally. It's spaz music of the highest order. I mean, if you like weird music at all, you should listen to this. And I'm guessing, and I'm not saying I'm like the big expert when it comes to strange music, but I have listened to a lot of it, and I've been listening to it for a long, long time. So it's, like I said, it's beyond shocking that I haven't heard this. It jumps around, it changes, it's fast, it's slow, it's death metal, jazz, Middle Eastern type music, a lot of Japanese music. I hear a lot of different things in there. All I can really do is compare it to things that you already probably listened to: Tubring, Mr. Bungle, The Boredoms, Residents, Acid Mother's Temple, Captain Beefheart, Yamataka Eye, John Zorn. I feel like I'm just saying all the names that all of my friends and I just talk about all the time. So it's interesting that this group isn't in there because it fits beyond well. It's like, it's almost more Bungle than Bungle. It also can be really pretty at times. It's also cuter and more upbeat than all these other bands, except maybe like the Boredoms can get cute every once in a while. The Residents accidentally get cute every once in a while, I think. But there is this element of like childishness to it all too, which is cool. One thing that separates this from all those other groups is a really good and smart use of percussion. You have a lot of steel drum, a lot of tabla drums, vibraphone, marimba, Kyoto. Yeah, so that adds another element to it. Every once in a while, it gets a little too goofy for me and sounds a little bit like Zappa or Sparks, which I know everyone else loves, and I'm sorry that I don't. But it's just like, it just crosses the line into too goofy for me sometimes. This does that a little bit. I think the fact that it's not in English makes a difference because they probably are saying goofy stuff that I can't understand. But yeah, this came out in 2001 and I really wish I would have heard it. I would say that if you are a student of avant prog and this crazy music, I would say that you're going to love it. I don't really have much else to say about it. What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, I really don't have much to say about it. Much else to say about it either. This was great. I mean, and everything that you said, Eric. One of the main things that I was going to mention was the crazy use of percussion. That is apparent from the get-go on this record. But yeah, everything you mentioned, from John Zorn to Phantomas, pretty much anything that included Patton, all of the experimental Ipecac stuff he's been in. Anything by John Zorn, The Ruins, Praxis, Secret Chiefs, Boredoms. This totally just fits in with that. And if you like all that stuff, I think you'll love this. There are times where the percussion sounds like a Tom Waits record to me also. Like when Tom Waits gets really crazy on like albums like say Blood Money or even like Rain Dogs or something like that. Like the opening track on that Singapore, for instance.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of like crazy, almost like I like to refer to it as like junkyard percussion sounds.
Sure.
There's a lot of that going on here too. And then also I hear some of the more experimental jazz fusion era type stuff like Miles Davis, Bitches Brew type stuff, or even like Ornette Coleman or something going on. But I mean, that being said, that's all apparent in all of those acts that you and I both mentioned, Eric. Then there's a few times where it gets really, really spazzy to the point where it sounds like Lightning Bolt or something, you know, or US Saves the Monster, or, you know, something like that. It's, if you like that stuff, you'll love this stuff. Melt Banana, The Locust.
Big time. Yep.
I mean, all of that stuff. There's not really much more I can add. It's a really entertaining listen. Like all of those, well, I'm going to say most of those artists I mentioned, it's not something that I would probably put on all the time. But it definitely is something that I would listen to probably a moderate amount of time. And it, a very, very interesting pick. I really enjoyed it, Eric. Really enjoyed it.
I'm just overly shocked that I have never heard it and no one else around me seems to have heard it.
Especially since it came out in 2001.
I know. Yeah. It's just wild.
Because that was the era where a lot of the, I guess, like classic releases from like all of those groups were kind of coming out about that time.
Sure. I would say between 95 and 2000 was kind of the time for all that.
Yeah.
So I don't know how this slipped past us all, but we got it now.
We got it now. Exactly.
Listen to it, damn it.
Well, welcome to 2021.
Yeah.
20 years later. So next up, going to talk about the art of Corey J. Peak 36, which can be found on his YouTube channel, Corey P. He's also been posting 36 installments that really are kind of reflections on different periods of our good friend Corey J. Peak's life. Corey J. Peak, as many of you or maybe all of you know, is the founder of Sass Baloney Records, the bassist of Closet Witch, and just a good friend of both of us. And he's also from the same town that we are both from, Muscatine, Iowa. And so I've known Corey for a long time. I've known him since 2000, probably at least 2002, maybe even earlier than that. How long ago would you say you met Corey, Eric?
You know, Corey and I didn't know each other very well in the early days. I would say that, maybe only the last 10 years have we been around each other very much.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I've been around Corey enough to actually, I was around when a lot of these installments in his life were kind of going on. The way that this project works is that each installment, and again, that's for lack of a better term, is kind of just talking about a different event that happened in Corey's life that may have just affected him or inspired him or what have you. And some of these events, I am not going to lie, are very hard to listen to. And that's only because there are quite a bit of sensitive topics that come up. Corey talks about his life in dealing with emotional issues, ranging from, depression and bulimia, eating disorders, and sexual abuse, drug use, things like that, guns, violence. But there's also a lot of really, really beautiful things in this that he talks about as well. And so really the reason why I decided I don't really want to quote unquote review this is because, first of all, it's real life to somebody who is very close to me, real life to somebody who I know really, really well.
Mhm.
And to me, it would feel like I'm reviewing the life experience of somebody.
Mhm.
And who would I be to do that? Because we all, go through different things. And some of this stuff, quite frankly, I mean, I was kind of shocked by, and some of it I totally was not shocked by,
Mhm.
and not in a bad way. Just, whoa, I didn't realize that happened. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So what I would encourage everyone to do is to go to Corey's YouTube channel and take a listen for yourself. It's a very interesting and also a very honest, raw, and extremely sometimes disturbing, sometimes very wonderful, I guess, collection of thoughts, collection of a collection of things that happened in Corey's life. Some of the things that I already knew about or that I was kind of a part of. Well, I was there when he first met the love of his life that is
Mhm.
still very much a part of his life. I was there also for the relationship that he talked about previously
Mhm.
that got really, really ugly. Again, I will not mention any names, but I was there for a good portion of that as a friend to Corey and of that person. I didn't know that there was a lot of stuff going on that he mentions, the emotional abuse, the eating
Mhm.
disorders, and things like that. I didn't know that that was what was going on. And a lot of the stuff that he talks about growing up, I didn't know any of that stuff, and nor would I expect to.
Mhm.
Those are a lot of the stuff that he reveals here. It's very brave of him to share because a lot of it is highly personal. It would be
Mhm.
stuff, some of it is stuff that I would be scared. I don't think I could bring myself to
Yeah.
do a project like this because I I would be scared to.
Mhm.
I don't think I would be brave enough to do it. And I think that is admirable beyond words.
Mhm.
It's a very, very raw and interesting look into friendships, into just random memories. One of the things that really intrigued me was how he talked about when he's been a vegetarian for a very long time.
Mhm.
Since he was in I think the first time I met him, he was a vegetarian.
Mhm.
And I remember him being vegan for a long time. And he talks about his dad used to be a butcher. And
Yeah.
he talked about that despite his vegetarianism, animal like blood and like animal meat still is interesting to him.
Mhm.
And I thought that was kind of interesting. And he finds some comfort and that kind of stuff. And of course, that has to relate to his dad being a butcher. That's just an example of the kind of raw honesty that we get into here at
Yeah.
times.
Couple of things that yeah, it's very, very raw and personal. I think that one thing for me is it kind of makes you kind of do an inventory of your own life a little bit. Makes you kind of think, well, I wonder if there are things that happen to me that I've just sort of repressed or pushed down to the point that you haven't thought about them in years. It kind of made me think about some things in my life that I don't know, weren't great or were formative, either in a good or bad way or whatever. And so I think the whole project kind of begs that of the people that see it, is
Yeah.
kind of like to go through your own past and think of the things that made you into the person you are. I love that it covers kind of all the different emotions you feel as you're growing up, as a child, how there's elation automatically combined with guilt or fear, and sadness, but also just excitement and like all these different feelings that I think as we get older, we sort of try not to have anymore. We actually push them away, where everything, you either feel this way or you feel that way. And there's like, I feel like when you're a kid, all that's just jumbled together. You can't really compartmentalize your emotions the same way, and I think that kind of comes through a lot too. All of this stuff I actually got a chance to tell CORY the other night at the show, so that was cool. I think I made him maybe a little uncomfortable talking about it.
Oh, really?
Well, no, I think I could have just been more discreet about it,
Oh,
And,
sure.
me, I was just yelling across the room,
Mhm.
I really like your stuff and I like how personal and it was, and but
You
no,
get up on the mic. Hey, you
yeah.
guys know that there's this
Yeah.
highly personal project.
Yeah. Yep, that's pretty much how it worked. But I did tell him that I really liked the artwork itself. I love that there's different kinds of shading in it, like halftone or zipatone, like old school comic style.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that stuff in his art that much. I also felt like the pictures themselves, whether it was subconscious or on purpose, kind of reflect the mood of the situation as well. CORY always uses a very bright color palette,
Mhm.
but in some of these, they weren't as bright, and some of them were like beyond bright. And so I think that sort of reflected elements of the story too, or at least the feeling. And I brought that up, and CORY didn't really expound on those ideas very much. So I don't know if he just didn't want to discuss it, or if he hadn't really consciously thought of it, or just was getting ready to play a show and I was literally keeping him there to talk to me.
Right.
But yeah, I was pretty blown away by all of this. I can with full confidence say I've never seen an art project like this.
No.
I've seen people get really personal and talk about past traumas, but it's usually sort of a lashing out, or like trying to share how those things made you feel with an audience or something, like performance art, and this doesn't come off like that at all. I don't think CORY ever really comes off like that, like attention seeking. And so, yeah, I think this is highly personal, but it's more like someone going through their inventory of things that shaped them on a personal level. They're just letting us look at it. I don't think this was made for us. I think it was made for CORY to go through some of these ideas.
And
so that was my big takeaway.
And also, I got to say, knowing CORY for as long as I have, I've known him to be an artist from pretty much the first day that I met him. And I think this is a complete and utter display of his evolution as an artist, from the idea of it to the drawings, as you mentioned. There's a lot of stuff that indicates, like you mentioned, I think that he kind of went, and I think it's pretty obvious, went out of his comfort zone with some of this stuff. And I think that was kind of a prerequisite for it. I think he knew that if he was going to do this, it was going to have to be uncomfortable, and to some degree. And I think that he executed it very, very well. Also, using the robotic voice to explain his stories is the most CORY peak thing I can think of. Like, I'm going to say that straight up. That's a CORY peak move, from beginning to end right there. And yes, it's just a really heartfelt, sometimes heartbreaking, but most of the time there's a reason that is explained for why things happened the way that they did, or a moral to the story, or whatever. And maybe that's not even intentional, but I think there's a lot, like you said, I think there's a lot we can take away from it as people. He did a lot of reflecting on why he became the person he did today. He has become today, and why he, treats people the way he does, or whatever, and why he believes the things that he believes. And there's a lot of personal reflection. This is not something that I think a lot of people could do easily. And I doubt it was easy for him.
Right.
I mean,
for sure.
So yeah, this is really, really good.
Yeah.
So that brings us to the local scene report. Eric, anything this week?
No, nothing happening this week. No,
Got
there are some few things.
nothing.
So we'll start with Thursday. Thursday, the 28th. Feed Me Weird Things presents John Mueller, whom I don't know, but Claire Nunez will be playing that show too of Dryad. And so that will be super cool. That is at the Trumpet Blossom. Starts at 9:00. The seating on that one is limited to 50. So I would probably get tickets. On Friday, the 29th of October, River City Collective presents A Light Divided, The Almas, Heavyweight, and Non Grata. That's happening at Ribco, the Rock Island Brewing Company. I don't know what time it starts. I don't know how much it costs. You can look into it. But anyway, so that Friday night, that's the only one I could really come up with. Saturday, on the other hand, is pretty out of control with the amount of shit that you could do if you wanted to that day. I guess that's sort of everyone's day to celebrate Halloween. So yeah, lots of shows. Chaos for a Cause. This has Grave Cores, Non Grata, 404, In My Blood, and Tracy Von Crypt. So kind of a horror punk deal, looks like. That's at the Electric Ballroom in Waterloo. There's the Shackletons with Johnny Dexter. That's at the Octopus in Cedar Falls. There's the Goddamn Gallows and the Getaways, who are a Central Iowa ska punk group. I don't know them, but they're playing. That's at Lefties. Goddamn Gallows is kind of like crust folk, you know? So if you're into that stuff for Halloween, it's a good choice. Mike Vallely and the Complete Disaster, The Good Devils and Saint October. That's at Joy Sticks Rockade in Keokuk. Again, these are all Saturday the 30th. Last one is Mead O' Ween with the Sid Yiddish variety show, Blue Movies, who are wonderful, Noise, the Dead Girl Medallion, and Bear Quake. And that is at Bootleg Hill Honey Meads in Davenport. So that's everything happening Saturday. So like I said, lots of stuff. I mean, it's Halloween. Why wouldn't
there be?
And then on actual Halloween on the 31st at Flat Black Studio in Lone Tree. Again, this is actual Halloween. So Sunday the 31st at sundown or sunset is when it starts. So if you want an actual time, I don't have it because I don't know the sun's business. Whatever. So this show is gonna have Phosphenes, Sinner Friends, Spict, and Mystic Cross, who I was told is actually Claire from Dryad. So she has a busy week. And so that's happening at Flat Black at sunset. So pretty esoteric show details there, right?
Yeah.
And it's in a clearing in the woods. I honestly don't have any other info, so I'm sorry.
That sounds like an Eyes Wide Shut scenario.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So I'm gonna wear some kind of
black
mask
hood
and a hood, which I usually do. I mean,
that's when you get out of the house, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you got to leave the house, you might as well look good.
Yeah.
Wear a hooded cape. Yeah, on the 30th, I don't know what I'm doing yet. I was thinking about going to the Englert and watching Rocky Horror.
That sounds like
I might finally dress as Eddie, the Meatloaf character. I've had this dream of dressing up like him for about 30 years. So maybe I'll actually do that. So if you want to go see Rocky Horror on Halloween with me, just get a hold of me.
There you go.
But yeah, tons of shit to do. this weekend. So
Is that all the shows?
that's all I got.
Well, it sounds like you all can have a very spooky Halloween. Ooh.
Oh my gosh. Oh,
Where do we go from there?
I don't know. That was a pretty spirited thing to say.
As Spirited Away.
Oh my.
Have you ever seen that movie?
I sure have.
That's a pretty good movie.
It's good. I like it. For shiz, as the kids say.
Do they say that? Is that even
what the hell
like
the kids say? Oh my god. Jeez, it's so dumb. I can't even believe it. Well, they're not dumb. It's just like they just explain everything. And you're just like, but I don't actually care. It's probably the way they feel about adults. Like adults explain shit to them and they're like, I don't care. I just want to play video games. And then when I say, hey, you can't play video games. And then they're like, but I have to get this one diamond and put it in this rock. And I'm like, no, I don't care. Like the generation gap is just people not wanting to fucking listen to endless explanations.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, okay, that makes sense because I remember like up until I was like probably like 30 years old or something.
Yeah.
I tried to be like the cool uncle to my nieces.
Yeah.
Where I was just like, well, you guys got to listen to like hip hop from the 90s too.
Right.
You know what I mean? When
yeah.
And then I realized, the responses I kept getting were like, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And that was like it, you know what I mean? So it's really interesting. The stuff that we were, super into. And then you think that everybody else in the world throughout the ages are going to be really into it. Like there was a period of time where I honestly thought that like kids didn't like the music that was coming out during their like generation. You know what I mean? Like I thought, oh, there's no way kids actually like this stuff. Well, you know what I mean? I'm going to play them some real music.
Yeah. Hey kids, check out this real music.
Yeah, exactly. You guys ever heard of Jawbreaker?
The thing is, I hated all the music that came out when I was young. So it's fine. I get it.
Oh yeah, no, totally. But
I was glad that old people were like, you should listen to this instead. I was like, you're right.
Yeah. Do you think that our generation appreciated that a little more, like when old people would kind of guide us?
I don't know. I don't know.
Like when it comes to culture,
how they guided you, right? Like if someone was like, dude, you should really listen to more Bad Company, I'd be like, no, fuck, no. But if someone was like, hey, the Talking Heads are actually pretty cool, then that's all right. I don't know. I guess it all depends, right?
Yeah, those guitars aren't that distorted. You ever heard Dark Throne?
Yeah.
My parents bought me one of those Talk Boys.
Yeah.
And I remember I recorded my first album on a Talk Boy when I was like 10. And then I came out and told my parents, I just recorded my first album. I'm going to be a rock star.
Wow.
And then I said, I'm going to go get started on my second album now.
Yeah.
and my parents were like, okay, cool.
Those were the days, right?
Yeah. When you just thought that you had to start on a second album the same day you finished the first one.
I think it's a great plan. I wish I would have done that.
It should just happen.
Damn. Yeah.
The thing about Talk Boys that were really cool is that a Talk Boy had a slow and a fast setting. If you recorded it on the slow setting, it played back on other tape decks fast. Oh. But if you recorded it on the fast setting, it played back super slow.
Oh, wow.
For some reason, it had an opposite effect. They were trying to not get people to record albums on the Talk Boy. Yeah.
They were like, we can use this to order pizzas and get hotel rooms and shit, but we don't want anyone making music on it.
Wait a minute. That was a Home Alone reference, wasn't it?
It was. Isn't that where that came from? The Talk Boy? Or like its big cross promotion?
Yeah, yes, it was.
Yeah.
And that brings me to something else that should have been a current event. Uh,
Yeah.
they're doing a Home Alone. They remade Home Alone, and it's called Home Sweet Home Alone.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a reboot, and it's pretty much frame for frame from what I can see in the trailer, the same movie with a kid who has big glasses and a British accent, replacing Kevin McAllister, or Macaulay Culkin, as he likes to be called in real life.
Wow.
Yes.
Why, I wonder?
Yeah. Why would you do that? Like, what is the problem?
Yeah.
Like, what is,
don't know.
I actually want to ask them what's wrong with
They
them.
really needed Donald Trump out of there.
Are they, well, no,
I know that's part 2.
didn't they actually do, yeah, it was part 2, but didn't they actually reissue the DVD and they photoshopped someone else in?
No, they were talking about it.
They didn't
I
actually
don't think
do it.
they did it. Yeah, I think Macaulay Culkin wanted to play that part, so it would be a little version of himself talking to a grown up version of himself.
The thing about
I mean, seriously, that's what I read. I don't know.
are you serious?
Well, someone suggested it, and Macaulay Mac. I'm just going to call him Mac.
Mac. Yeah.
And then Mac said he would be open to doing that.
Okay.
So he was really good in the new season of American Horror Story. Actually,
I've heard that he is really. Has he aged well?
Compared to what?
Well, I mean, what I mean is like, because I've heard from some people that he looks kind of rough now. Like, I don't know, does he? Or because last I saw him,
I don't know. It's been a long time since Home Alone. You know.
Well, I'm not. Okay, all right. Let's not compare it to Home Alone.
Well, I just mean I think that everyone compares him to what he looked like when he was 8 years old or something, and like,
what the hell, you guys? You're much taller now.
Yeah. Yeah. No, he doesn't. I don't know. I mean, he looks okay to me.
Well, the reason why I ask is because at one time I thought that he was a pretty good looking adult, like in some of the movie. Like, did you ever see the movie he did with Saved with Mandy Moore?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he was also in Party Monster.
Yeah. I
thought he looked pretty good, but somebody told me that he looked kind of rough, like in the American Horror Story.
Yeah, he does. But I mean, I'm sure it's a lot of makeup. I would not be surprised if they kind of played up his sort of gaunt, heroin chic look, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Mac. Talking about the Mac. Like they should reissue that song and make it about Macaulay Culkin. Or like Return of the Mac, you know?
Yeah. Or Mac the Knight.
Oh, Mac the Knight.
Remember that big moon sang that moon face guy?
I do.
What the hell was his name? He had a name.
Wait, oh yeah, the moon face, the half moon face that sang about the Mac tonight. Yes. That commercial made me hungry every time I saw it.
It didn't terrify you?
No, not really. It just made me want a Big Mac. I mean, yeah, I guess it did. It did terrify me. But I will tell you, when I was a kid, I used to be terrified of like a lot of things that were on TV, like the video to Wild Boys by Duran Duran. Oh,
it's pretty scary. Yeah,
that was a very terrifying video for me.
His name is actually Mac Tonight.
Mac Tonight.
It really is. I looked it up.
That's awesome.
He's known for his crescent moon head, sunglasses, and piano playing.
That sounds like a lot of pianists.
Like he's most well known for having a fucking moon for a head.
Most piano players I know have a crescent moon head.
Oh my god!
And sunglasses and all kinds of stuff.
Wow.
That's
what do you think? Should we end on that note?
Yeah, let's do that. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. And once again, have a spooky Halloween.
Yeah,
we'll
don't
be back
to Mac Tonight.
Mac Tonight.
Mac Tonight, y'all.
Mac Tonight. Peace out.
Oh, God.
Ozzy
Okay.
says Satan saved him from COVID-19.